Being a teacher is not easy. I know, understatement of the year. Teachers juggle test score pressure and parent expectations, not to mention a classroom of 20 to 30 young people who would rather be anywhere else. It's so easy to get overwhelmed and miss the forest for the trees. That's why we're here. We're getting to the root of the issues facing educators today, connecting teachers with the experts, and finding those resources and solutions. Through conversations with our guests, and hopefully you as well, we'll all learn and grow together. From the little saplings to the tallest oaks, this is Growing the Forest and the Trees, Big Pictures and Everyday Realities, a podcast from the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences at Troy University. I'm Dr. Shirley Farrell, Gifted Education Program Coordinator, here with my co-host, Dr. Lisa Etheridge, a classroom teacher of 24 years and an associate professor in the Department of Teacher Education, and Dr. Joe Johnson, Department Chair in Teacher Education with over 30 years of experience. On today's episode, Conscious Discipline. What is it and how does it work? Our guest today will help answer these questions. Holli Richardson is the principal at New Brockton Elementary School in New Brockton, Alabama. She has been in education since 2006 and has worked as a teacher, a guidance counselor, and an assistant principal. I'll turn things over now to Dr. Johnson, who has our first question for Holli.
Hey, we appreciate you being with us today, Holli.
Good afternoon. Thank y'all for having me here.
Holli, in your experience, why do you think that classroom management is so often a challenge for early career teachers?
It's a challenge because it's something that has to be developed over time. It's a process. And first of all, but then also because there isn't any one size fits all approach when you're in a classroom and you're managing 20 to 25 different personalities, children who have come from different homes, different environments, different experiences, different discipline approaches at home. And so, new teachers stepping into a classroom and being in charge of that and learning how to manage that, it just takes time to learn how to best respond in a variety of different situations, and then also time just to build the confidence that's needed to be able to respond in those situations and not become discouraged if the students don't respond to your redirection or to your discipline approach in the way that you expected them to. It truly is a process.
Thank you, Holli. I'm Lisa Etheridge. I oversee the Ed Specialist programs in the Department of Teacher Education. I remember back in my days in the classroom that classroom management was still that skill or that strategy that we just haven't totally firmed up and figured out the right way or the strategy that would work best in our classroom for most teachers. So I was curious, do you think, based on the new teachers you've hired or worked with in the past or recently, that teacher education programs are properly preparing new teachers for effective classroom management practices?
I do think that the majority of new teachers are coming prepared to the extent that they can be stepping into the classroom from the first time from their educational programs. They seem to have a good foundational knowledge of some effective classroom management processes and just the basics and a good foundation of what they need to get started. But of course, the more tools that we can give them to put in their toolboxes prior to stepping into the classroom, the more prepared they're going to be. So, I think that's why it has to be ongoing. Just like on our side of it, as experienced educators, we still have to stay on top of current classroom management practices that's going to address the children who are coming to us, because children, it's different through the years.
I totally agree with you and what you stated there. I remember back when I was in the classroom that the behaviors that I saw back then are completely different from what you see out of kids today. And I agree that, our kids come to us with different types of baggage and their home life and home experiences, and even from cultural and ethnicity standpoints that we juggle to figure out the strategy that would work best in the classroom. I'm going to piggyback off of that question and say, as you interview potential candidates for your school, is classroom management a topic that you really kind of focus on and drill in on as you interview your candidates?
Yes, absolutely. This is something that we're going to discuss with potential candidates. And if it's an experienced teacher, if it's a veteran teacher that's coming in as a potential candidate, I want to know what strategies they've used and what they find to be effective, how their students have responded to those. If it's a brand new teacher, then I want to hear that they have paid attention to the strategies that their mentor teachers have used and they've taken note of those and tried some things during their internship and can speak to those management strategies. But whether it's a new or an experienced teacher, one of the things that I feel like it's important to kind of glean from that process when you're talking with or interviewing the potential teachers is if they have an understanding that all classroom management, regardless of their approach or their strategy, is built on a foundation of positive relationships with the students. That's kind of the key. So those are the kinds of things we talk about in interviews with potential candidates.
My time in the classroom, I found that a teacher's personality makes a huge difference with whatever classroom management strategy they may try to implement. And as Holly shared, that's something that just develops over time, but it also requires a great deal of flexibility. Holly, are there any strategies? We're going to get into conscious discipline more here soon, but are there any strategies that you found and that you encourage your teachers to utilize?
We do. We try to give our teachers autonomy when it comes to their approach to classroom management, but we do have some consistent expectations that in terms of management plans and some things we're wanting to see it consistently across the classrooms. For example, we ask that the teachers have a clearly established set of classroom rules and expectations and consequences that match those rules. And what that is can be different depending on their grade level, of course, because we want it to be age appropriate, their management style. It's going to be geared towards the age of the student. And we also encourage the teachers to let the students have some sort of voice in that, depending on their age. So those are some things that we encourage in terms of the structure of their management plan. In addition to, parental involvement, that is one thing that I feel like is huge in classroom management. It's going to be one of those essential components that parents have an opportunity to be made aware of behavioral concerns as well as celebrate their child's good behavior so that they're in the loop basically about what is their child doing at school that is behaviorally that they need to celebrate, that we're proud of, and what can they help us with if their child's still learning to work through a challenging behavior. So the clear plan with rules and expectations as well as consequences, and then that parental involvement piece is a common expectation in terms of management plans in the classroom.
That is such a key point, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think in a lot of things going on in education, there's this idea that teachers do it all. Teachers play a role, but they're part of a complex series of interactions, and there are more people involved than just the teachers and the students. So getting the parents involved, I think, is very, very important, and I'm glad you brought that point up.
I agree. Making sure that everybody understands, especially the student, that we're a team and we're their team. The parents, the teachers, the administrators, the counselors, we're all here and we're their team, but we all have, we communicate and we all have the same expectations in terms of their behavior.
Thank you, Holly. I'm hearing that you are implementing an approach to classroom management entitled conscious discipline. Can you talk a little bit about that? Tell us a little bit about what it is, what it entails, and kind of give us an overview.
Our district received conscious discipline training a few years ago, so we have several teachers who participated in that training and still use that approach or pieces of that approach in their classroom. So basically, conscious discipline is a trauma informed approach to discipline. And it was developed by using the science of the way the brain works and basically reacts to stress to approach how to manage behaviors in children. And it was developed by Becky Bailey, and she is phenomenal. I had the opportunity to listen to her speak at an early childhood conference a few years ago, and highly recommend if you ever have the opportunity to hear her speak. But basically, this approach that she developed teaches us to be aware or conscious of our thoughts, feelings, and actions as adults so that we can self regulate, model self regulation for our children, and then help them develop the skills of discipline that they can use in those challenging behavior moments so that they can learn to self regulate. And as a school counselor, when I was introduced to this approach, I was a school counselor, and it just clicked for me because so many of the children that I worked with, I knew that their academic struggles were coming from a place of where they needed growth in social and emotional skills. So that's why I feel like it's so effective. And so basically, with conscious discipline, the goal is not to just stop a behavior, it's to replace a behavior. It's to take an unhealthy behavior and replace it with a healthy one that's going to help that student learn and grow. So consequences tend to be more real world and authentic.
So, as the principal at New Brockton, have you seen, since implementing conscious discipline, have you seen a dramatic shift in discipline problems in the school since the implementation?
It does make a difference, yes. And one of the things that I have noticed that most impresses me in classrooms that use this approach most consistently, you'll see the children in the classrooms start to be able to not only self-regulate and see those behaviors decrease, but you'll see them start to help each other, which is a really beautiful thing. So I've seen kindergarten students go to each other when they recognize one of their friends is becoming upset or angry and encourage them to take deep breaths and even take those deep breaths with that student. And sometimes getting that from a peer, a child will respond differently than an adult, and sometimes in an even more positive way. So it really is a beautiful thing to see.
That's a nice visual you give us. I wish we could see that in all of the classrooms. Dr. Johnson, you have another question?
First off, it's great to hear that coming from the field and seeing just a positive effect that is so visible. And I appreciate, that conscious discipline involves that idea of self-regulation and how teachers can model because, we talk about students may have impulse control challenges. Well, teachers have that same challenge on occasion. So if a program is holistic and really training teachers to be self-aware and then passing that self-awareness on to the students, I can see why it would be effective because there's a whole lot of psychology research that would back that up. So based on all this, Holly, do you think that teacher education programs like the one we have here at Troy would be well served to try to introduce conscious discipline into our curriculum in classroom management?
Absolutely, I do. It is a scientifically based approach, and it has been proven to be successful at every grade level. And because it focuses on building relationships and building those classroom communities, I mean, that's going to be at the heart of any well managed classroom. So I think it would benefit any program to include that in their curriculum because it's again just another tool that new teachers can put in their tool belts to pull from when they actually step into that classroom and begin building their own management style.
We know that conscious discipline is a great strategy and a great tool to implement. for classroom management. But aside from that, what other suggestions from you as a administrator and a stakeholder do you have for teacher ed programs to better prepare our students to handle and be effective in the area of classroom management?
So I think one of the most important things that for an intern to be able to see when they're entering their internship is something that they're generally not able to see. And I know it's because of the timing of when semesters start and end, but when a teacher is establishing their classroom management at the very start of the school year from day one, a lot of times interns miss out on seeing that. And that's when they're really laying the foundation. And that's when you're going to see a veteran teacher be able to address the most discipline issues because the students are still getting used to the teacher and the classroom and the rules and the procedures. So interns are able to step into classrooms many times after the start of the year when that foundation has been laid and established. And so they're seeing, and with a veteran teacher, if that's done well, they're going to have fewer opportunities to see them address behavior. So I think if it were possible to have interns be able to see the start of the school year and how those teachers establish the pillars of classroom management at the very beginning and how they respond to those challenging behaviors at the very beginning of the year, I think that would be a huge positive opportunity for interns to be able to kind of tuck away. So when they step into their classroom, they have even more to pull from in terms of strategies and approaches.
That's an excellent suggestion. I've always said I think interns should see the opening of school and the closing of school because there's
Yes,
nothing like it.
right. That's right.
We do get that feedback, and we're continuing to look at ways where we can make it happen because it's legitimate. It is
It
something that they
is.
can see from the beginning. It's going to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Holly, we just want to say thank you so much. You've given us wonderful words of wisdom that not only will pre service teachers need to hear, but new teachers and veteran teachers to re energize and work with the different groups of kids that continue to come into our classrooms.
Thank y'all so much for having me. I really appreciate being able to talk with you guys today. Thank you.
We appreciate you, Holly.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much.
Our guest today has been Holli Richardson, principal at New Brockton Elementary School. Don't just sit there in the back of the class. We need to hear from you. You don't need to raise your hand. Just email a voice memo to theforestandthetrees123@gmail.com. We'll tackle your question in our next episode. We hope you'll share this podcast with the teachers in your life and give us a review or rating on the podcast platform of your choice. Growing the Forest and the Trees is a production of Troy Public Radio and the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences at Troy University. For Lisa Etheridge and Joe Johnson, I'm Shirley Farrell. We'll see you again next time on Growing the Forest and the Trees, the Big Picture and Everyday Realities.